with is I want to actually just lay out the course of what is the goal of this series, this sequence. So we have a 6-session series, and each session is going to build on the previous session. So the recording of these sessions is going to be very, very valuable, because if at some point in time you do have to miss one, you're going to be able to like go back and get some of that stuff. The majority of the loaning will not be happening in the session. This is going to be priming. It's going to be helping you to figure out how to loan by yourself, on your own, in between our sessions. So what I call the homework is actually where you will be getting the loaning. Because if you can't take these skills and apply them by yourself in your own environment, then they're never going to stick. The reason that I'm doing these workshop series for free is because I really want everybody in this room to become the best, most skillful motivational interviewer that you can be, so that we can all achieve our shared objective of doing something meaningful environmentally, and whatever the course that may be for us. I want us to all be at our strongest. So this session, so a brief highlight on this session, and I'll come back to session 1, but I'm going to just paint an overarching view. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for each of the sessions. So session 1 is going to be looking at our emotional state and how that actually changes what we say. So what I say, what I think, is very, very influenced by what I'm feeling and what my emotional state is at any given point. So in motivational interviewing, some people call it the MI spirit. I like to refer to it as the MI band of emotions. So if we were to go into any conversation, you can picture a wingspan worth of emotions that you may feel. Oh, and I've been gesticulating this whole time. I realized my camera was off. There's any wide band of emotions that we may feel at any given point in a conversation. But during motivational interviewing, we have a narrower band, what I like to refer to. And those are the state of mind, the emotions that if we're feeling those, that's going to basically make it so that we just by accident are going to start doing motivational interviewing. So then in session 2, we're going to be focusing on listening. So we're going to train our ears in a way like we've never trained them before. We're going to listen deeper. We're going to listen to body language with our eyes. We're going to listen to tone with our ears. We're going to listen to silence, and we're going to interpret a more accurate, specific meaning of silence. So we're going to take in all of those meanings without judgment, without preconceived notions. That's our second session. Our third session is looking at utterances. Okay, so we don't even get into the training of what we say until after we figure out how do we feel and what do we listen for. And the reason why is because in motivational interviewing, we say things that are like reflections. We have to listen, otherwise we don't have anything to say. So I could do utterances practice right now, but nobody would actually do it if we just put the focus straight on utterances. What you can do is after you listen, then your utterances just come piece of cake. So that's what we'll be doing on day 3. On day 4, we're going to take a step back from these very, very narrow, close focuses, and we're going to pull back, and we're going to look at the conversation overall. And we're going to say, okay, so at any given moment, I'm feeling a specific way, I'm listening for specific things, and I'm saying these types of things. But let's actually pull back and say, how does that look over the entire arc of a conversation? So that's day 4, and specifically that we'll be looking at what we refer to in motivational interviewing as the 4 processes. Day 5, we're going to be bringing it all together. And day 6, we are going to be highlighting and just getting a lot of like experiential practice and figuring out how we're going to apply this individually, making our own personal plans for how practice and B, utilize these skills to the best that we can make them. So that's our overarching goal for the entire sort of series of 6. So before I come back to 1, does anybody have any questions or want to, comment on anything for that series? No? I see, happy no nods. And I see, oh, no. Oh, just the shoulder exercise. Okay, so, and I wore my my Vincent van Gogh hat today for 2 reasons. 1, to pretend like it's sunny and warm outside, and 2, because I have COVID hair. So let's see. So where do we want to begin our session today? Let's start there. That is a lovely place to start. So what I want everybody to do right now is I want you to actually close your eyes and visualize. Okay, so we're closing our eyes and we're visualizing a camera. The camera is in front of us. We can picture that camera. Now what I want you to do is I want you to leave your body a little bit and go out and kind of take that camera and tone it back on yourself. Now, this is no normal camera. This is a camera that has the ability to take a picture of your emotional state. So I want you to stand behind that camera, this special camera in your mind, and I want you to take a picture of your emotional state right now. Take a minute to come up with different words to describe how you are feeling. Now describe it again. Describe it again. Okay, now I'd like you to open your eyes. And if you can grab a sheet of scrap paper and a pen, I'd like you to write down what those things were. This right here is your first snapshot. Now, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just do a bit of a shout out in chat, and this is everything that requires participation is always voluntary. So if you don't want to, then please just don't feel like you have to at all. If you'd like to type into chat, just give me a bit of a shout out to give me some of those words, just so I can get a feel for where everybody is at in the room emotionally right now, if you wish. Because we have a range. We have a range of concern. Some people are getting more into the meditative nature of it. Some people might be thinking about climate and how that is actually concerning. Some people are optimistic that this might be able to break down some climate barriers that we've had. So we do have a wide range of emotions. So now some of these are in the MI band of emotions and some are not. So that's actually really, really good because That's what today is all about, which is recognizing where we're at and trying to identify what is in the MI band of emotions and what's outside of it, and figuring out ways that we can actually regulate ourselves so that we're going to go into a conversation, say, you know what, this conversation is too important for me to let myself feel anxious or stressed, for example. I'm going to say, I need to figure that out in order for me to maximize this conversation. So let me get some tools to be able to do that so that I can go in with an open heart, non-judgmental, empathic, things like this. Okay, so what I want us to do now is I'm going to actually, did we do the curiosity exercise when we did this, the intro session previously? Okay. Now, the curiosity exercise is a very, very special exercise. And I'd like us to actually do it again, but we're just going to do this. Okay, so what I want everyone to do is, we're not going to send the groups out yet, but we're going to spend 8 minutes in a breakout session. And what I want us to do is I want us to spend 3 minutes one way and 3 minutes the other way. So we're both going to have a chance to be tied to your hormonal system. And that's about how long it takes for our hormones to start to change and go through our body. So what I'd like everybody to do now is I'd like you to look at somebody who is on this call. It doesn't have to be me. You can look at anybody. In fact, preferably don't look at me. Look at somebody else. And if you're not on video, that's fine. There's many choices here for people to look at. Now, I want you to look at that person, and I want you to say, wow, here is somebody who I'm really curious about. Let's take a second because I've missed one step, which is I want everybody to write down something that you've thought about making a change on, but you haven't actually moved on that change yet. So just write that down on your paper. Just spend a minute, just kind of come up with one thing. I think maybe that thing. I'm ambivalent. Oh, I don't know. So now we've got something written, something we're a little bit ambivalent down on the sheet of paper. So now back to the curiosity. So we're looking at somebody else in the room. The person that we're looking at just wrote something down on that sheet of paper, and this is something that they're feeling ambivalent about it. We don't know what it is. We don't know why they're ambivalent. And we're curious. We want to know why. Why are you ambivalent? But who might you be in the future if you were to like make that change? Or well, who might you be if you didn't make that change? I'm curious. Like, why did you choose that thing? Can you tell me more about that? I'm so eager to know more. I'm curious to understand. I also picture like a cat digging around in a box. There's a new box in the house. Like, what's in there? Oh, let me see what's in there. So we're going to take that feeling of curiosity with us. And if at any point in time we don't know what to say in our conversation, that's totally going through this. This first thing is literally to kind of demonstrate, well, actually, what do you think the purpose of this activity was? I'm going to do it like that way. I love to do it that way. So if anybody wants to jump in and say, what do you think the purpose of this exercise was? Yeah, so asking with no agenda. So when we ask with no agenda, then that's, we're drawing up more, we're not getting as much stuff up in our own head. It's good for sharing. There was a lot of connection being made. You were connecting with your partner. It was validating. Okay, so when we do all of these things, we were narrowing our band of emotion. So when we feel curious and we allow curiosity to kind of like take us over a little bit, then we're very, very strongly in the MI band of emotions. So when we're outside of the MI band of emotions, we usually have a tendency to have a lot more going on in our own heads. There's a lot more distracting us. We're thinking about what's going on for dinner, we're thinking about this, we're thinking about a lot of different things. What we aren't doing is we aren't focusing on our audience, engaging, connecting, listening, all of those things, they're not happening. But when we just tone on our curiosity, then it's happening a lot more. So now we get to go to the next step here, which is we get to put ourselves in a challenging situation that might actually pull us out of the MI band of emotions, and then figure out how we can bring ourselves in the MI band of emotions, or how we can actually stay in the MI band of emotions regardless of the triggering experience. So if in this exercise you feel yourself being pulled out of the MI band of emotions, that's totally okay. In fact, that's part of what this exercise is designed to do, is it's designed to put you in a stimulus that might be slightly triggering, but also give you an opportunity to realize and take a snapshot of yourself becoming stretched in a way that you don't want to be. And if you can actually bring yourself back into the MI band of emotions in this situation, then it's going to be like practice to do it when, let's say, you're speaking to a conservative politician about climate things, if that thing might be triggering for you. So what I want to do now is I want to go to a video. So give me one sec to just get there. So this is a video between Joe Rogan and Candace Owens. So Joe Rogan is the interviewer. Candace Owens, they're trying to sell me a master class by Martin Scorsese. No thanks. Okay. So it's going to be an interview between Joe Rogan and Candace Owens. Candace Owens is the one being interviewed. She's the guest on the program. And I want you to just actually listen to this. And we're going to listen just for like 2 minutes. And I want you to just monitor your emotional state as you're watching. So focus on the thing, but just be aware of what's happening with you emotionally as you're listening. Okay? So let's just watch for a few minutes, shall we?
Our jobs overseas, the regulation, the government getting bigger and bigger. You can't do anything as an entrepreneur in America without a piece of paper from the government, discouraging people with this piece of paper, like shutting down the factories, forgetting that there's something, there's a little land between New York and LA, believe it or not, and this is what Trump understood. We were losing that. And Trump appealed to those people. I'm still floored. As I'm traveling the world and seeing different pieces of the country, I'm learning how ignorant I was. And that's the best thing in the entire world. Way? Just I fell victim to the idea that it was progress. It was progress. It was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's no, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
I don't think we have to care about the environment?
No, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit?
No. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Okay. I'm not saying we need to trash the environment. But do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all believe. They had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them and what can combat it and what could not. Have you done all this, or do you take this flippant opinion based on the party line?
This wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about the party. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but I would not be able to come to you and say this is my strong opinion. But here's the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
It's very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity. Most scientists, the vast majority agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah,
the vast majority.
Yeah, I just don't think so.
So you think that the very
Okay, so Now, when you watch that, where do you feel yourself at emotionally right now? So take another snapshot of yourself and let's get some of those answers. Where are you at right now after watching that video? Okay, so now if you were to read the comments actually feel a lot about what you're saying here. The comments get very negative. And what happens is this video and our normal traditional way of environmentally engaging is if here's the MI band of emotions, we're over here. Okay, we're in this place where we are just sort of like, just da da, and it makes us angry. There's frustration, anxiety. The feelings are not positive. Okay, and when we engage with somebody, and that is what's behind it, even if we control what comes out of our mouth, there's still things that actually come through that portray that frustration, that portray that disappointment, that portray that anger. Those things still come through either in our tone, our word selection, our pauses. It's there, people hear it, and they respond to it. Okay, so now, do you remember when Joe Rogan's like, or is that just some flippant opinion you just made up? Do you remember him saying that? Okay, now, if somebody just genuinely said their truth and somebody said to you, was that just your flippant opinion? What does that feel like for you? So the second that those words come out about like, what was that just your flippant opinion? We are so far, like we're not in motivational interviewing territory at all. We're like the opposite. But we know from the motivational interviewing literature what this is. This is a specific thing that we refer to as a confrontation. It's a confrontational statement, and a confrontational statement is the easiest way that we know how to get somebody to not change their behavior. So if we want somebody to not change their behavior, all we have to do is confront them. And we will have succeeded at getting them to not change their behavior. We will just get them so entrenched in their views because they're going to be coming up with every type of resistance that they can think of. And their creativity and resistance is definitely going to have a longer leash than our creativity and science and logic to beat down that resistance. The fact of the matter is resistance knows no bounds because resistance can always turn towards you. Resistance can be towards an argument, and resistance can also be towards us. And when we say something that's confrontational, we invite resistance towards us, which means we've already failed. Okay, so now what I'd like everyone to do is I'd like you to write down the following sequence of words. Now these are words that we'll use, and this is going to be a familiar thing that it'll be a current through our entire workshop. So the first two words are confront and persuade. Now, next to those two words, I want you to start what I like to refer to as a spectrum. So put like one of those like lines between and like maybe like a few hash marks off of it. And so on one side or on the top and bottom or left and right, whichever way you want it to go, you'll have this confront and persuade word. Those words, whenever we confront or persuade somebody, the motivational interviewing science tells us that we are more likely to draw out feelings of resistance, words of resistance, tone of resistance, just universal resistance is what is more likely to occur from our audience. Now, I said more likely. If you confront somebody, sometimes people won't actually resist, but maybe they'll have silent resistance. Or maybe this will be somebody who actually does respond to a confrontation. For every one person that responds positively to a confrontation, there's going to be like 10 that do not respond, that the response to a confrontation is going to be resistance. This is the biggest way to get that resistance. So that's what we're avoiding. Now, our next series of words we're writing down is give information. So that's one. And persuade with permission. So that's our sort of like next step over in the direction towards like the positive side of this spectrum. So on the negative, we have confront and persuade. Then moving over a little bit to the left, we have give information and persuade with permission. So if confront and persuade was the big bad, then this is sort of like the little bad to neutral. Then going a little bit further to the spectrum, we have a question and a simple reflection, which is just basically saying what they said back to us, back to them. So question and simple reflection. So that's going to be in sort of like the small positive bucket. And then all the way to the right, we have 4 things to write down, which are all like big positives. And those are complex reflection, affirmation, seek collaboration, and 4th is emphasize autonomy. The second one was affirmation. So it was complex reflection, affirmation, seek collaboration, and emphasize autonomy. So now that right there is a little bit of a prelude. I want to get that bubbling in your head and then over your sleeps. We know that we learn more when we sleep than at any other time. That's when our new nerves are being built. So we're laying the groundwork here. So that way, you know, 2 sessions from now, when we really start working, we're going to really focus on those statements in session 3. But now, by the time we get there, we're going to really have a bit of an understanding already for what they are by the time we get there. When we are in this, oh yes, and if you want to share that, then yes, please, by all means, share with the group. And yeah, I love the sharing. The more you talk between yourselves, the more effective this is going to be. So if you are like shooting messages between each other during the training, please know that I'm not offended. I encourage it. Like, just talk all you want. I love it. Okay, so when we're in the MI band of emotions, that curious feeling, it kind of makes confrontation and persuasion very, very difficult to do. Be like, it's kind of just feels sort of like out of phase with reality. Yeah, like if you're trying to be like, oh, did I say confronting? I meant to say like curious and confrontational. Like those things feel like, huh? They don't really make sense together. So, and the reason they don't make sense together is because we don't do that. We don't really do curious confrontation. Like it just doesn't make any sense. So when we're feeling curious, we're pretty much pulling ourselves to the right. We're pretty much starting at the small positive area with like the question. We have a tendency to kind of like use reflective statements and questions when we're curious. So now I want to actually go to another exercise. Give me 1 second to just take a look. Oh. And did we do a snapshot of, we did do a snapshot of how we felt after that was over. Okay, yes. Okay. So what I want us to do this time is I want us to actually go into, we're going to watch the same clip again and engage with Candace and try to be better than Joe. We're going to put ourselves as sort of like a silent member without a microphone sitting next to Joe, and we want to listen empathically to whatever Candace is saying. We want to hear what she's saying, and specifically, we want to hear what she's saying that is connected with change. We want to open ourselves to that. So what I want you to do right now is on your sheeted scrap paper, I want you to write another spectrum. So another line. And on one side, I want you to put resistance. And on the other side, I want you to put change. So this right here is going to be another spectrum that I want to introduce you to. So on this spectrum, at any given point, there's sort of like change language and resistance language coming out. If we think of it as a binary, it becomes less effective. It's actually much more effective to view every single statement that somebody makes as a grain of sand. And to look for how that statement represents a voice for change. Okay, so it's like I want everybody, actually, let's picture this out right now. I'm going to create a new metaphorical scene for you. So I'd like everybody to close your eyes. And I want you to picture a beach. This is a yellow golden sand beach. And each grain of sand on this beach is a statement that somebody is going to make in a conversation with you. Each grain of sand that you can see, that golden yellowish color of the sand, that is actually representative of change. So in each statement that is made, there's something about it that has changed. On the other side of that grain of sand, if you were to pick up one of those grains of sand, on the back side of that grain of sand, it's black. And on the front side, it's this brownish gold color. So that's the statement that we just heard. On one side, it seems like it's resistance. And on the other hand, it seems like actually, if we just flip it to the other side, there's something about it that has changed. So this time, as we go through and listen to Candace, I want you to picture that some of these grains of sand may be resistant on one side, but on the other side of them, there's actually some part of it that is changed. And I want you to listen for the side that is changed and to kind of jot it down underneath that spectrum you just created. Okay, so let's open our eyes. Okay, so we're going to try this again, and we're going to listen to how what Candace is saying is change oriented. Okay, let's go.
People, we were the gap, like we're losing the middle class. The gap between the rich and the poor was like literally.
And what do you think is causing that?
Policies, shipping all of our jobs overseas, the regulation, the government getting bigger and bigger. You can't do anything as an entrepreneur in America without a piece of paper from the government, discouraging people with this piece of paper, like shutting down the factories, forgetting that there's something, there's a little land between New York and LA, believe it or not, and this is what Trump understood. We were losing that. And Trump appealed to those people. I'm still floored. Like, as I'm traveling the world and seeing different pieces of the country, I'm learning how ignorant I was. And that's the best thing in the entire world.
Way?
Just, I fell victim to the idea that it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's no, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
I don't think we have to care about the environment?
No, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit?
No. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Okay. I'm not saying we need to trash the environment. But do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all believe. They had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an
Okay, so when you listen with that in mind, what were some of the statements that you heard her saying that were positive change for the environment, connected? If you think and swirl that around your mind, how is that connected with her being the voice for change on the environment, or her being the voice for a good environment? What did you hear? Yeah, they had no plan. So there was a concern about the plan. Let's actually jump into that a little bit more. They had no plan. And let's jump into a few. So they had no plan. So let's actually have a bit of a discussion about that. So she said they had no plan. That plan was terrible. We had to get out of it. So if that's what you're saying, what does that mean? What do you think about that? Let's zoom in. Yeah, okay, Nigel, she wants to have a plan. She doesn't like the plan. Well, we know that carbon fee and dividend is a conservative policy. And it's been kind of held up by environmental advocates, and at least here in Canada when we've passed it here. And so then I just had a call with the Canada CCL. We're on our third series of the same workshop, and we looked at that, and so on the call, this was brought up, which is, well, there's got to be a conservative out there who thinks something, who's done. There was, okay, she brought up wage gap. Okay, so wage gap is very important, right? Okay, so if we could close the wage gap, we could have more environmental workers if we had let's say universal basic income. She doesn't want to trash the environment. She feels adrift without a plan. She's caring for the income gap. This is not the hill I die on, acknowledging gaps in own knowledge. Yeah, she's just oh, I'm not going to die on this hill. And it's so then so spoiler alert, as it goes on, it gets more and more confrontational. And now the thing is it'd be easy for us to blame Joe for what he's doing. But there's no point in doing that. We can also tone this empathy that we've used for Candace. We can also use that same empathy for Joe. Joe is not trained in motivational interviewing. Joe is probably sort of like an amateur, on climate things. And he's looking at how is climate normally communicated. His understanding of how climate's normally communicated is, well, we need to present the science and the facts and like the majority of scientists and what they believe. And he goes on and he talks about that. And he tries to push that on her. And so what happens is he tones that onto, you need to die on this hill. She said, this is not the hill I'd die on. Then he confronts until she is pushed into a situation where she has to die on that hill. He's trying to make her die on the hill. But then he also doesn't know what else to do. Let us actually prepare for another activity. And this one, what I want us to do is I want us to actually go in groups of 3. And with this one, I want each of us to, it's going to be an elected representative. So one of us will be playing an elected representative. And the other 2 people will be a team of people to go visit and talk to their elected representative. And in this situation, I want you to be, so if you are the person who is going to choose to be the elected representative, I want you to take the part of a resistant, but not absurdly resistant elected representative. You're still professional. You are an elected representative. These are your constituents. You're not going to treat them with disrespect. So you can choose to be a conservative person. You can choose to be a centrist person. You can choose to be a person who's left. Each one of those different types of people might offer resistance in their own way. So a conservative might kind of resist the plan and, might come a little bit of resistance about like, the meeting in general. A neutral might be like, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the road. And then a leftist person might say, well, we already have the plan, we're doing it. And it's, they might offer like, why are you talking to us? You should be talking to the conservatives because they're the ones who are, resisting. So their resistance might be, like, don't pay attention to me, pay attention to them. They're worse than I am type of resistance, which is also resistance. So, so take on some resistance, but if you hear something that in your gut actually leads you to kind of want to like go down that road, then you can go down that road. Now, if you are the 2 people that are engaging with them, I want you to actually just try to engage and utilize this curiosity and not bring any sort of judgment about what you're going to bring to the conversation or judgment of them. So we're practicing curiosity, empathy, and non-judgment. Ultimately, it's this MP's right to decide what they're going to do. They're elected, not us. They have the right to say no, not us. These activities in this situation, we're putting ourselves into situations where maybe we weren't all that effective. And you want to know what? That's okay, because this is session 1 of a 6-series workshop. Remember, the purpose of today's series is to just be aware of our own emotional state. And so if we found frustration in not being able to talk about, the question is, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Not being able to talk about what I want to talk about, or the frustration? Which one came first? Or maybe not being able to talk about it. Well, were you really not able to talk about it? Or did you kind of have one thing and then you kind of entered off, you kind of left the MI band of emotions just a little bit, and that kind of was a bit of a spiral that trapped you. That spiral trapped you and kind of pulled you out of it. And then led to frustration. And when you were frustrated, your mind was going a mile a minute trying to figure out how you got the cart back on the rails. But by then, 7 minutes was over and Wolfram was like, nope, get back here. And it's like, oh, crap. And then it's like, I didn't accomplish anything. So if you felt frustrated or angry, that's actually a wonderful outcome. Because today, we can feel frustrated, we can feel angry without spoiling our meeting with our MP. That didn't hurt us at all. This was practice so that we don't have to be frustrated and angry. So we can say, last time when I practiced it in the test run, I got frustrated and angry. How am I going to address that? Now, what was it like? Let's hear from our interview, like our politicians. What was it, maybe if you want to actually give a little bit of a verbal about what was it like to like go through that, or like where were you at? What were you feeling as you were playing this role? There's a little bit of a challenge sometimes with role plays where, you know, it's just sort of like, where does the role play end and, you know, me begin? So it can be a challenge, but there is something very interesting when we go into the role play is we get to be that person, we get a different empathic sense about what it's like to be the politician and what might influence them. So role playing the politician is something that we all want to try and give everybody the chance at some different points to do, just to kind of flip the thing on its head and say, okay, I'm going to be the politician. What is it like now from my perspective? So when we try to go and influence them, we can say, okay, well, I've already been this person. I've been the person trying to toe the party line. So how am I going to be me and toe the party line at the same time? How are we going to use a question when we go into that meeting and talk to that elected representative that's going to validate them on their party line, and still allow them to kind of be themselves? Because what we need line that we have to help them to kind of just validate and move beyond. The elected representative. I was the elected representative in our group. There were two people, and I was able to like domineer the session, right? And so I was able to control the way that the session went. I was like, I said, oh, okay. I kind of gently steered the conversation in the direction of carbon capture and storage, and carbon sequestration, because I was playing a conservative politician, and I just wanted to kind of, you know, steer it away from, you know, this other thing and whatever. And I was able to do that. So in motivational interviewing, it can sometimes be a bit of challenging, but very possible to actually draw out and evoke a conversation and gently guide the conversation towards where you want it to be. So one way that we can do that is we can use something called genuine self-disclosure. So I don't want us to actually spend a huge amount of time, because we're going to do more of that in utterances on session 3. But we're going to do it so we can get another snapshot afterwards. So that's the real purpose. So in this situation, let's do another exercise here. And I'll be the elected representative. And I want somebody to actually to kind of like guide me towards CCL's agenda in a non-judgmental way that still allows me to decide whether I'm going to, you know, take up the agenda or not. So it's just going to be your own personal truth or your own personal whatever, but it's not going to demand something of me. So what I want everybody to do is I want everybody to write down a few open-ended questions, so questions that can't be answered with a yes, no. And it's going to be feeling. So if we can just say, look at a picture of this person, or multiple pictures, look at them try to understand them and say, I like you. I like you. Even do it like, like Stuart Little in the mirror and be like, I like you. Gosh darn it, you're a good person, and just do it like full on Stuart. It's like that right there. You're teaching your brain not to have an adverse reaction to the person so that you can just say, I like, and if you can channel a feeling of genuine liking, that can actually get you to stay closer to the MI band of emotions. So we've got 15 minutes left. So what I'm thinking I'd like to do is I'd like to actually, before we do another example or another run through, is to actually go to the homework. So can I ask everybody, if you're on your, can you open up the homework, and we're just going to do a little run through of like, what are these things, and like, what might you get out of some of these experiences? So I'm also going to go on screen share. So if you don't have it downloaded yet or whatever, any problems, then I've got it there. All right, so homework, where are you? Now I have to pull it up. Okay, so the name of the file is called Empathy Homework. And let's go to screen share. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? All right, I'm getting the thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so I went full screen so we can look at this together. And if you want to look at my screen, that's, I guess, good, because I can also arrow at things. But if you want to go to your screen, you do what works best for you. Okay, so the MI spirit, or the MI band of emotions, is basically these 5 things. This is what I like to present here. So empathic. So we're really focusing on understanding their truth. It's other focus, it's their. We can just repeat their in our mind, them, their, they, and just say pronouns that are other than me. It's not our, it's them. We're listening, we're focused on them, we're hearing the words that come out of their mouth, but not only that, we're also hearing the tone, and we're seeing the body language. So we're focused on them. Non-judging, so when they say something, even if it's something that we know isn't true, we can still engage with that thing, even if we know it's not true, in a non-judging way. Not because we are agreeing with it, because we already know it's false. Okay, so we heard something that wasn't true. We're just going to non-judgmentally look at that false truth as one of those grains of sand that's black on one side and brown on the other. Okay, so we're just going to flip it upside down and say, oh, wow, so that person is so stressed by climate change that it's easier for them to deny its existence than it is for them to actually try and do something about it. Wow, they must feel very upset or hurt or frustrated or something like that. So I should be empathic and non-judgmental, so that I can give them the space that they need to escape this mental trap they've created for themselves. And last but not least, I'm feeling curious. So now we've got a series of exercises, and these are journal exercises. So there'll be like a little thing up here just to kind of like prime an exercise. Now, each of these exercises are designed to basically just be done as a sort of like, during your day type of a situation. And when you do them, it's not supposed to take over your day or be like this or that. It's literally just for you to say, I'm doing this anyway, or I'm in this park, or I'm on this walk, or whatever anyway. And I'm just going to keep a different thing in mind than I would normally keep in mind. And I'm just going to be curious and see what happens when I just do it a little bit differently. So observing people watching, and seek to understand the body language and how their body language provides specific choice clues to their specific choices. And so we're just full on observing what the body language means. And then you have some debrief questions here to kind of help you to pull out the meaning from that experience. I mean, could it be useful for us to like understand how to read body language a little bit better? I mean, there's probably 100 different meanings or ways that could be beneficial. So, um, other focused. So this one, we're choosing an object in the room and we're going to focus on it. And we're going to tell the story of that object over and over and over again. And when we do that, there's going to be a lot of mental things that happen as we fully engage in this exercise. We're only talking 2 minutes here, and then you've got the debrief questions again. So now listening. Is this me? Yeah, okay. So with this one, it's all about hearing the word but. So remember when we had our spectrum on the left and the right, and the persuade and the confront on one side, and the second spectrum actually, where it's sort of like there's language that's resistant on one side, and on the other side it's language that's sort of like more changey gobbledygook. So resisty, changey. Sometimes, in fact, very frequently, people are in a state of ambivalence. So this one is all about hearing that state of ambivalence. So when we hear the word but, though, although, yet, what that does is it signifies that there's a statement over here on the resistance side, and the next statement is going to be over here. Or maybe there was a statement over here, but statement over here. So that's what but does. Is but is like a cartwheel from one side of that spectrum to the other. So when you hear the buts, you can't unhear them. And that's what this exercise is all about, is to just go through your day and try to observe the word but being used in conversation, either from yourself or from others. Be like, holy crap, it's another but. And then I like to do my joke, which is every butt has 2 cheeks, the resist and the change cheek. And there's a crack down the middle? Huh? Okay. Anyway, I didn't even get I got a little laugh. Okay, geez, tough crowd. Okay, so non-judging. So just trying to observe yourself in a situation that might otherwise like put you in a judgmental thing. And if you do find that you made a judgment, that's wonderful. Okay, not because we want to make judgments, but it's this thing I always like to say, which is, I love failure. And it's like, what, you like failing? It's like, of course I don't like failing. But if I say I love failure, it removes its power over me. So then when I say I love failure, then I can see it. I can be like, oh yeah, I totally messed that up with a smile. And then I can be like, whoa, how quickly can I not do that again? So if you can look at it, it's like, oh man, I totally judged there. Wow, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that next time. So try to observe yourself like that. And if you do find yourself making a judgment, then laugh yourself through it and say, okay, I judged. And so maybe I cannot judge next time. And then, of course, curious. This one is curiosity, but directing it towards an animal's behavior. So that I just wanted to do that little brief of the homework so that you could see what you were getting your head into. If you want to edit the homework to be, more your mojo, you're like, well, I didn't really see animals, but I saw people. It's like, so I can't do that one. It's like, that's fine, do people instead of animals. So maybe you see people and you want to do animals. Well, do animals then. Wait, oh, well, I don't have that in-person thing, but I have that Zoom call. So I'll do it on a Zoom call. Do it however you want. Edit the exercise however you want. It's yours to do with. Really what you want to do is practice. That is where your skillfulness will come from, is through the meaningful practice that you are doing. And if anybody wants to send me your homework, please do. I would love to read what you have to say, and I'll learn so much about you, and maybe my homework assignment can be improved. So your experience of an empty page might be an opportunity for me to improve my homework assignment. So if you want to send it to vincentenvironmentum.org, then please do. And yeah, so I'll go to Q&A, and or we can do one last round before we're done.